You don't know, you better ask somebody. You listening to the Power Movement.
Welcome to the Powell Movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and my guest this week is a man of many talents. He's had a 25-plus year career in snowboarding, and he is personally responsible for helping usher in a new era of snowboard movie. But creating videos is not the only thing Jesse Burtner is all about. While he'll be remembered for one-footers and taking snowboard flicks from gnarly to more creative, he's also had a long career as a pro rider, then transitioned to a position behind a desk as the marketing director over at Lib Tech. I've known of Jesse for a long time, but I don't know him at all. In the couple hours we spent together, he seems like a really good dude, a guy I'd want to have beers with. We didn't have beers when he was over for the interview, because if you listen to the podcast a lot, you know that I'm doing Sober January. I did this last year, and I will say that it is so much easier in year 2. While no one likes a quitter, I think a month hiatus is amazing, and if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it for the dreams alone. I haven't remembered my dreams since last January, and man, I wake up every morning with something new and crazy from my sleep. I've hung out with Shaq, I've driven supercars on ferry boats, and watched my kids surf some monster waves. I've also lost almost 10 pounds without trying. While all of that is awesome, I'm super excited to get back to normal in February. While it's been easy to stop and everything, falling asleep has been way harder than it used to be, and that's annoying. What's not annoying is Jesse, and before we get into the podcast, I need to ask you to do a few things for me. First, I want you to subscribe to the podcast. Second, please follow me on Instagram at The Powell Movement. And finally, I want to thank the amazing brands that make this show happen. They are Evo, Stanley, Spy Optic, 686, and the 10 Barrel Brewery. Now, let's talk to Jesse Burtner. Snowmageddon has happened. Were you in a lot of Seattle traffic heading over here because no one knows how to drive in the snow?
Absolutely not. There's no one on the road. Super mellow, 36 degrees, easy breezy.
Have you been up to the mountains the past couple weeks?
On Friday, it was really good.
I've been up as well, and it seems like the crowds this year seem to be a little bit bigger than in years past, depending on where you go. And I'm sure you've seen it all on the internet as well, of just the lines and the parking and what's going on with Washington skiing and snowboarding.
The froth is real. I mean, there's more people in the area, and being here, you move here and you buy into an identity, and you buy into certain parts of this identity, and certain people are selling it really well as well, like what I do for my job. And you got to buy into that identity. And part of it is this escapism to the mountains, to the beaches, to any wild place. It's popping right now like harder than it's ever popped, I feel like.
To the point where I see people complaining a lot, where in years past when it was crowded, people expected it. But now people driving 5 hours and being turned around and not being able to get parking. Is it something that is going to be like that from here on out in Washington with the people and the big corporate passes that are being sold and the amount of them being sold pre-season?
Yep.
Fair enough.
No, I mean, it is. I think it is. And if you're really about it, you got to adjust your lifestyle a little bit so that you get what you need.
So weekend riding is not what it used to be in Washington, but if you're up early, you can still get it.
And you got to have a creative approach, make a plan, like I refuse to be in a situation that's unpleasant, like a super long lift line or a car lineup. I'm just like not about that. Maybe go up super late.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was reading some people who were like, yeah, we slept in, went up at noon and everything was perfect. So yeah. I think that's kind of the way to do it unless you're going to get up when it's dark out.
Yeah, exactly.
But in starting the podcast with you, I want to start with something that's probably the most unpleasant thing that we're going to talk about. We'll go back to 2002, and it's your major injury. You're sessioning a handrail, and what happens?
So we're in Kirkland. Matt Edgars calls me up. Awesome snowboarder, good friend, and he's a really young kid, and him and his crew had grabbed some snow from an ice rink, and there was just something to do that day. Pretty mellow rail, and I just wasn't really taking it seriously. I literally remember dropping in. My mentality was like, I'm not even trying to get a shot for a video.
You're just fucking around.
I was just messing around and like wasn't in the zone. It was September, I think.
It was October.
October, yeah. So hadn't snowboarded in forever and wasn't taking it seriously. Thought it was easy, but the rail was pretty mellow. So you had to balance. And I think it was a few tries in or something, and just board sliding it, and slipped off, and the stairs were pretty dry. And so maybe slipped off 5 stairs to go or so, and caught, and my tail flipped up and caught the crossbar.
Okay.
And so when you catch a crossbar, like, it just accelerates your whip.
Yep.
And I just whipped backwards and hit my head on the bottom stair.
Okay, like on the point of the stair?
Basically, yeah, like right on the edge of it.
Okay.
And it was just like, boom, like, and then everything just goes like murky. I remember a lot of it up until the point when I got to the hospital. I remember pretty much everything, but it's like in this weird, altered reality, dream state sort of situation.
Is it one of those situations where if you were wearing a helmet, that would have saved you, or it would have just made it not as bad as it was?
No, that's 100% the situation where a helmet I would have just like gotten up and gone again if I had a helmet. It wasn't a high speed situation. So a slow speed situation, hitting a foreign object.
And then whipping your head into it.
Yeah. And that like pisses me off, that like, that's the kind of preventable stuff that kind of pisses me off. At least save yourself from getting killed doing something super weak like that.
Well, back then, though, it seemed like helmets weren't that cool. I mean, Chris Duffy, I think, was wearing a helmet because he had a TBI at some point, like in the late 90s. And you didn't see many people in videos or magazines wearing helmets. It wasn't looked at as a cool thing back then. Well, I'm sure that's all changed for you. What was your perspective before the injury? I mean, did you want to put people in your videos wearing helmets?
There wasn't anyone wearing them, like you said. It was almost like anti-helmet. There was like almost an anti-helmet agenda. And there still is, which is what it is and develops culturally in different pockets of snowboarding, less and less every day. But yeah, really, Duffy, myself, and Sean White at one point were really the only 3 dudes doing it, and all in different arenas, more or less. Duffy and I were pretty similar. And that was really cool when Chris started wearing one. That was really cool for me. I really hung on to that. It was a big deal for me, like a really big deal thinking about wearing that helmet. A really big deal the first day I went out. I was at Baker, day 1, when I came back. And I remember putting the thing on my head and just looking at myself in the mirror a bunch and just, like, I mean, it sounds shallow, but it was a really big deal. And I think a lot of that was this cultural pressure that we felt back then to not wear a helmet. And thank God that's like evaporating. And like, I'd like to shout out Jed Anderson on that front, even if he didn't have much say about it because he was a young guy. But him coming on the scene, ruling street riding as hard as he did with a helmet, like I brought it up to a certain little level, but he like made it fully acceptable within that community that it was an option. He made it an option. And then you got guys like Gus Warbington and Max Warbington that just never took them off,
Yep.
And that's cool.
And when you go down, what's the scene like? Who are you with? And is everybody freaking out like he's going to die? Or is it they don't realize the severity of it? What happens in that situation? Because it's got to be pretty scary.
Well, they're like playing off my cues. And I immediately was just like, this is not good. And I did like a lap around the school. And I think I puked a couple times. And they're like, let's go. It's Andy Semitis, who's a really good friend of mine forever. Matt Edgars. Sean Genovese? Memory's a little spotty. I believe Jenna was with us. And I was very adamant about getting to the hospital in Seattle. I wanted to go to Ballard. To be completely honest, I wanted to go home and take a shit.
Do you go home first or you go straight to the hospital?
No, I went home. I was trying to like see if it would go away because it just felt like my head was going to explode. So I made it home. It was just getting worse and worse. I'm like, let's go hospital. And by the time we got to Swedish, I went to the front and I said, help me. I hit my head, And they're like, fill this out. And I threw my body. I went up onto my stomach and I just said, help me. And I was like laying there and I didn't fill anything out. They just were like, okay, take him straight to the back. And then I get back there and they're like, someone will be right with you. And I was like, can I close my eyes? And they said, yeah. And I was like, can I sleep? And they said, yeah. Or someone said, yeah. And that's the last I remember for a few days.
And that's the thing you're supposed to not do.
They didn't know. They just had some young kid come in screaming.
When you wake up after a couple days and are trying to figure out what's going on, what do they actually do to you? I mean, is it like your brain swelling and that's what the pressure is and they have to relieve it? I mean, I've seen the scar on the internet and stuff, but what do they have to do to get you to the point where they're not worried about you being yourself again?
First thing they do is they move me to Harborview.
And that's like the trauma place.
Yeah. And they contacted my wife, Christina.
And you were married like 3 months?
Yeah, just barely married. So right out the gate, putting her through the ringer.
Yeah, this is what to expect.
Luckily not, but a little bit of that. Yeah, then they had to drill like a golf ball sized hole in my skull. And they had to do that twice. They took it out, let the swelling go down, put it back in, and the swelling increased again. They took it out, put it back in.
Wow. So it's just like pressure in your brain and your skull's not going to expand. So weird shit's happening in there.
Exactly.
And I've seen people that have life-altering injuries like that. Do you change as a person? I mean, I know your snowboarding and your outlook on life has changed, but are you a different Jesse after the injury where maybe you were more cocky or more this way before? 6 months later, you've got a new lease on life and you look at everything differently?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, I feel like I was a different person afterwards. And it took a while to kind of find that out and deal with it. Because at first, you're basically just depressed. I lost my sense of smell. So I was at that point for a few years. It came back. But just being so beat down, having no smell, and your head is just pain for a long time. And it was just felt like a kind of like a depression.
Okay.
And then as I started coming out of that, other than the smell, I was feeling pretty good. But I guess in general, I felt like I was just kind of a flatter person. Maybe a little bit emotionally, like...
No highs and lows?
Yeah, not so much. Like maybe a little less. Everything was a little flatter seeming. And I think some of that had to do with the smell at first, because losing a sense obviously flattens your perception. But I can't go back to that time and know how I feel. But over the years, I've seen a bigger trend that was like, I guess I am kind of mellower and don't really know how to make an emotional connection as easily as I felt like I did when I was younger.
Did your wife notice a big difference between you? Did she have to relearn how to interact with you?
No. More subtle than that.
Okay, so personality's still kind of the same?
Yeah. She just had to deal with getting me back on my feet. And then for someone that was in love with what I did as I was, there was a big commitment there to like help me get back to where I was or better. And so those are the things that she really had to put a lot of her effort into.
Does it affect any of your motor skills or anything like that? Or when you finally were feeling good, could you snowboard again like you used to, or did that take a long time?
No, I didn't have any real brain damage like that. No, I was pretty quick. Like when I was in the hospital, so after the swelling went down, they got me out of the ICU into a kind of a normal room. Then they were running some tests on me and they asked me to spin a 360 and I like jumped, did a 360 because...
That's what you're used to?
Yeah, I was like, okay. And I like jumped and did it and they're like, whoa, like don't jump, like spin around. Anyways, I was pretty good.
Did you have health insurance at that time?
No.
How do you pay for that? How long are you in the hospital?
It wasn't that long because we escaped because I was worried about this very issue.
Yeah, I would be too.
And so not too long after the 360 test, got a little alone time in the room and Christina was there and Pete Iverson, maybe my mom. And we were just like alone and I was like, let's get out of here. And Christina was like, dude, this is costing us like $20,000 a day.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here, And I'm like, I'm fine. They said I'm fine. I jumped to 360. I cooked an egg. I made a cup of coffee. Let's go. We'll figure this out at home.
And you had to absorb the cost all to yourself? Or do you have fundraisers? Or, because I would think it's a couple $100,000.
Yeah. Well, it was like close to $90,000. And we applied and qualified for Medicaid. This is before it got cut by the Bush administration, I believe. So there was still a little bit of a safety net for not uninsured.
Mm-hmm.
We were definitely within the economic threshold for that. And so we got that and that helped a lot. And then there was a fundraiser that Christina worked on and the Sound Straight dudes. And We had our movie premiere down at the Showbox, and it was a team up with Sound Straight and JB Deuce, and they like raised a bunch of money. And then the letters and stuff that came in were crazy. Like the donations from people that I had met a couple times out snowboarding or was connected with, but would never expect them to like give anything. Like MFM wrote me a letter and gave me money, and like kids that had been on Sims with me or something, or earlier days that I hadn't talked to in years were digging and sending checks and stuff. So it was really cool.
It's cool to see the community step up like that. It could haunt you for the rest of your life, but it sounds like it didn't.
Yeah.
And probably not the greatest way to start a podcast to talk about the worst thing that's ever happened to you, I would think, but that's how we're going to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, in some ways, it changed my entire trajectory for the better.
You're a man of two lives. You had the gnarly Jesse beforehand who was trying to go bigger and spin further, and then the creative guy that came out of the injury where the shit's tech. I mean, it's like just as hard, but you're not going to die doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
A tale of two lives, and the first part of your life, you grew up in Alaska, and parents together, brothers, sisters, rich, poor, average. How was that growing up?
Parents together, 3 older brothers, pretty magical existence. I guess you'd call us middle class for sure. Seasonal workers, commercial fishermen in the summer. And then my parents were both school teachers off and on in the winter. And we would all go out to Bristol Bay and fish. I spent like every summer of my life out there up until I was 19. Yeah. Lived in the mountains above Anchorage in a neighborhood called Glen Alps, which is actually above the Chugach State Park entrance. So I was like the flat top guy. Flat top is the mountain there. And me and my crew, my brother and our crew, we just like know that zone. Like
that's your backyard?
Yeah. Know all the jumps. Like it's just an amazing area. And like I could strap in on my porch and pump down the stairs of my porch and then hit the snowbanks in my driveway, cross the road, be in a meadow, get down to a gully. You could ride about half a mile from my porch.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you'd have to walk back up the road.
Yeah. But you didn't start riding until you were like 12 or 13, I don't think.
11, yeah. 11.
Did you ski before that, or was it just snowboarding?
Just snowboarding, yeah.
The family ski at all, or you guys, the brothers, just get into it and your parents were like, cool?
Yeah, they didn't really ski. We cross-country skied and sledded. And my brother, Matt, he duct taped some shoes to a sled and he was like snowboarding. And then my brother, Marcus, Matt was the eldest, is the eldest, and Marcus the next in line. He got a Burton Performer 148. And then Garrett, the one closest to me, he was like hot shit sledder guy.
Okay, I didn't know there was hot shit sledder guys, but he was catching air on the sled.
Yeah, he was like good at sledding and ripping on it. And I wasn't really like into anything. I was into basketball a little bit, into comic books. But like when I got that snowboard, I think I saw an opportunity to stand out in the brother hierarchy because Marcus had kind of abandoned the Performer. It was just sitting there. And Garrett was really good at everything, but he was really happy with sledding. So I was like, all right, I'm going to get in there and be the snowboarder in the family.
And about that same time, I think, is when you get your first video camera, which is the early days of point and shoot video cameras, I would think.
Yeah, it was my second year snowboarding. My first year snowboarding, I knew I wanted to make videos, or I wanted to be in the magazine because like a few days in snowboarding, we were coming up on Christmas. So I was maybe a month in of trying to do the snowboard thing. And I was in the backcountry up in Alaska at my house. I wasn't at a ski resort. So I was just like going straight everywhere, just go straight until you fall.
No side cut, go straight.
Yeah. Yeah. And like maybe find a wind lip, and me and my friend Brett would just go straight and try to like launch off the wind lip and crash. We didn't get turning. We didn't understand any of that, but I got a magazine in my stocking for Christmas. I think it was the first issue of Snowboarder magazine with Damien on the cover doing the heel edge turn. And I would just like take that mag and like just, Yeah. Yeah, like while out. So I'm in my living room. I just remember looking at like this picture of like John Boyer or something and staring at it, not wanting to bring the magazine outside. I would stare at it, get it in my head, and then put it down and then run outside. And I had like this little jump and I would like strap in and be like, like, was that it? And I would ask my mom to come watch and be like, does that look like that? Super funny. So from the beginning, they were tied.
And when you get to high school, it's a different experience for you than most kids in the lower 48. You go to a high school that's service high school, but there's a program called the seminar school. And I don't know what that is, but it sounds very artsy and a different way of learning and probably affected you throughout your entire life by going there. And what was that all about?
Yeah, so that was really cool. So as a sophomore, there was a school within the school at Service High called Seminar School. And that's based off the Socratic learning method, which is the learning method that Socrates created.
Like question everything?
Yeah, kind of like a way of learning through discussion.
Okay.
And so we learned all our topics through discussion, and we would read papers and break out into groups and sit in circles in the hallways and whatnot and take turns reading till we got through this whole paper. But we would stop maybe every couple pages or whatever. And it was a real slog. You're reading like Plato's Republic and you're 15 years old and you're just trying to get the language down, first of all, and then understand what they're saying and then apply it to your life. And everyone's taking turns reading and then you discuss. And it was a slog, but it was so cool. Like really, like the number one thing it did for me was made me know how to listen.
Okay. Do you have to be like the smart kid to get into that school within the school, or how do you end up going there?
It's like the poles. You're either the dumb kid or the smart kid. Like the kids that were bored with school. It was like, this isn't enough for me. Like the school could hardly hold them.
Yep.
They were in there. And then there was the kids that looked like they were gonna slip or had slipped. And they were in there. And I was a little in the middle somewhere. I think my freshman year was my toughest year academically. So I definitely could have gone bad. I wasn't connecting with institutional education.
Did you do anything that was normally institutional education? Because you've been associated with a lot of cool shit for a long time. It might not have been cool when you started, but it eventually became the hottest shit in America, it seemed like. But did you do like your high school prom and high school sports and stuff that regular kids did?
Yeah, I cross-country ran and cross-country skied on the teams.
Wow.
Yeah, and just for a little while until I had to choose between snowboarding. It was cross-country running where they said, hey, yo, you got to like either go snowboard or do this, basically type scenario.
And it's like polar opposites. I mean, snowboarding is all about creativity, freedom, and expressing yourself in that way. And the other two are all about endurance and winning.
Yeah, they are, but they're cool too. Good people. And I liked cross-country running. It also was at a time in my life when it was like, can you do anything? And I remember being able to complete those races and run as fast as you could was pretty rad. But then snowboarding, it wrapped everything up in a bundle and put a bow on it. It was like culture, communication, athleticism.
More of a lifestyle.
This crazy lifestyle. And you got to be weird, not in the status quo. And that's always been like my brain just wants to be not in the status quo.
Now it is time for me to take a quick sponsor break, and my first sponsor is Evo, and they are a place I started shopping at way before they started supporting my podcast. Why? Because Evo does it all. Online, they have the best deals on the interwebs, and they offer free shipping on orders over $50, a low price guarantee, and the no-hassle return policy makes it easy to send things back if you have to. They also have stores in Seattle, Portland, Denver, Whistler, and I've been reading a whole lot about a Salt Lake City location in the works. In store, you are going to find all the brands, all the products, art, and a lot of passionate people who want to help you get dialed in for your next adventure. And for listening to the show, I've got a new deal from Evo for you on all Evo branded products. And everything they make is just as good or better than the big brand stuff. To get the deal, head on over to evo.com, shop the branded products. When you check out, enter the code POWEL20, that's all one word, and you'll save 20% on your Evo stuff. My next sponsor is Stanley, another iconic Seattle brand that has been ahead of the curve since 1913. While we all know Stanley for creating those iconic green bottles that kept your grandpa's coffee hot all day long, they still do that, and a whole lot more these days. They still are all about adventure, and they still are all about keeping your beverages hotter or colder than any other product ever created. Aside from being the leader in hot and cold, Stanley has always been the right choice when it comes to the planet. If you're still using single-use plastics for your beverages, it's time to make a change for the environment, and I'm going to make it easier than ever to do. Head on over to stanley-pmi.com, buy some stuff, and when you check out, enter the code POWEL, the number 30, all one word, and you're done. You'll get 30% off your entire order. My next sponsor is new to the show, but 686 has been a fixture in the world of snow and independently owned, which is a rarity these days, since 1992. When it comes to technical outerwear, 686 is known for pushing the boundaries of design and construction. The fit and function of my 686 gear is better than anything I've ever owned. And what I'm quickly learning is that 686 gloves are hands down the best, most durable gloves I've ever used. From their industry-leading pre-curve fit to the mobile phone-friendly Sound Touch forefinger and thumb, 686 has thought of all the details. But don't just take it from me. 686 gloves are the only thing you'll find on the hands of athletes like Forrest Bailey, Parker White, Sammy Lubke, Matt Belziel, and Olympic silver medalist Kyle Mack. And in 2020, 686 has added 3 more amazing riders to the glove mitt team: Hannah Beeman, Laurent Demartin, and Gigi Roof, who will be putting out a signature model. You can find 686 gloves and outerwear at 686.com and finer retailers around the globe. Those are my sponsors. Now let's get back into the podcast. What did your parents think about you being a snowboarder? Because, I mean, at that point, I think snowboarders were tied to being dirtbags if you ask skiers. And while that's not the case, that was just perception. Did your parents, were they stoked with you being a snowboarder and wanting to follow that path? Or did they want you to go to college? How did that work?
They were supportive. I mean, they sent me to snowboard camp. I got to leave Naknek in the middle of fishing season, fly to Anchorage, meet up with my friends, and fly to Portland, get to Mount Hood, and go and tap into this world. I got to do that, and they made that happen. They were supportive. I didn't always see it as a young person.
Sure.
Because they were also like, what are you doing? Who are these people? They were also very supportive of our crew. I think it was more skateboarding. I started snowboarding first, and then when I started skateboarding, my mom was not too stoked. That really had a bad look. But, to me, they were one and the same. So, yeah, she had me on blades for 1 year.
Blades?
Yeah.
Like rollerblades?
Yeah.
All right.
I went to get the skateboard, and she's like, get these instead. They were at the shop, and they're like, you can get these. And I was like, fine. I'm
familiar with the blades for sure.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned fishing boats and you were going up there on a young age, I look at fishermen, most of them, or not most of them because I've never been on one, but I would think there's a lot of fringe people up there who are going to make a lot of money in 3 months. Then they're going to go spend their money at the bars and doing whatever. Did you see a lot of gnarly shit from fishermen when you were coming up that most people don't see?
Absolutely, yeah. No, you're exactly right. And there's a lot of that in Alaska in general.
Okay.
A lot of polar lifestyle. I think it has something to do with the weather.
Yeah.
But, high highs, low lows, big bang, big bust. There's some of that mentality. Fishing, yeah, for sure. I mean, we were a great little family unit on the boat, and it's stressful. Even with the great little family unit, there was stress.
So it's hard work.
It's hard work, and there was stress. But all in all, that was good. But yeah, you see a lot of crazy stuff, man. You see crazy stuff every day.
You see people go over the boat ever?
I never saw anyone go over the boat. My brother went over the boat once. My brother Matt, but I wasn't there. I almost went over the boat.
So it's a scary job, I would think.
It can be really scary. There's a few cases in particular where I was really terrified, and I started kind of developing a little bit of a phobia for that feeling, where it's I do not want to be back in that feeling. Bad weather always kind of heightens everything. Just like if you're out skiing or snowboarding and the wind's whipping and you don't know if that slope's going to pop and you can't see 10 feet in front of you and you can't hear what the guy's saying. It's all that heightened. And then rough seas, everything about that is just stressful and crazy. And then if you put in the actual work and then the money aspects, it can be pretty wild.
Did you pull a lot of money when you were doing that, or were your parents able to be like, hey, you're going to get this and we're going to take the rest?
Yeah, I mean, that's the deal when you're a kid on the boat. But I got a percentage from the time I started. But I had to save it all for college, and I spent it in 2 years with out-of-state tuition at Western because I didn't want to lose my permanent fund dividend because I was an idiot.
But before you even get to college, I mean, we've established you had a video camera at that time, and I think your high school has a program or has some computers and stuff that you can work on editing videos and doing stuff. Is that through high school that you kind of developed those skills?
Yep. So I got a little edit machine at home. All I wanted to do was put music to video. If I could just get music to this, that would be insane. And my friend Pete Iverson and I got the edit equipment, and we both had video cameras, and we got music onto this one tape. This is like maybe freshman year or something. So we did that. But that thing, it was called a Video Sonic or Videotronic or something, super funny little edit board. But getting into high school, then we decided to make a movie. And we got a bunch of the crew together in seminar school, and we were able to get credit for it. And we were able to go to Polaris K through 12, another alternative school where they had a sort of Avid machine. I mean, we weren't cutting film. We were doing video.
Tape to tape?
Yep, tape to tape, linear editing. And so, like, I've done so much editing now these days, all these years, it's almost hard for me to describe linear editing to somebody. We're not actually physically taping. We're recording.
From deck to deck?
Yeah, deck to deck recording. Yeah, so you know.
And that's your first video, and I don't think that counts towards JB Deuce, but you eventually meet Jason Borgstede at Arctic Valley, and that's the first terrain park in Alaska, or the one that you're going to. And he's like a known entity. I mean, everybody knows who he is. I think he filmed a little bit with Mac Dog.
I think at that point he was only in the Vulcan video, maybe. But maybe it popped in Mac Dog already. Maybe a clip or two.
For Alaska, it's hard to get exposure in the lower 48, I would think, because you're kind of out there, and the riding that you see is like Tex and Parada out there, and that's not the shit that you guys are doing, because you guys don't have budgets to do that kind of stuff. But is it going to the park and shooting shit like that?
No, it was everything. It was everything, yeah. And you didn't need a big budget to get extreme. You know, we would hike from my house and ride chutes. We just didn't think it was that cool. We didn't want to film it.
Right.
That's for sure. We wanted to do tricks. But we were riding Alyeska every day and riding lines and dropping cliffs. And then we would go to Valdez in the spring. And for that movie that we're talking about, it was called Broadcast, How I Learned to Love the Tube, which is like a Dr. Strangelove shout out. But we actually got Jason in that movie, Borgstede, but it was mostly a bunch of high schoolers. And we went to Valdez and filmed for that movie in airplanes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was 16. Most of us were 14 to 17.
So, like, you've done your whole life. You made shit happen. You were just doing that at 16 years old?
Yeah, we went down because it was like King of the Hills coming to town, and we're not going to miss it. We're all frothy snowboard kids. We're all tied in with Borderline. Borgie's already popped. He's going places. So we know it's possible. We had a sick crew, and we went all out, as Wu-Tang Clan would say. Yeah, we went down to Valdez a couple years in a row, and the airplanes used to just take you up for $25, maybe $30. For a chip, no guide. We'd get all of us in a plane, take us up Nick's run, drop us off, peace, see you tomorrow.
Good luck, guys.
Yeah, and we'd ride that whole run, film all day, one run, and we'd get back to the road and hitchhike back, get the car.
And is this one camera, or you guys have a few different cameras back then?
I think we're just with one camera.
Okay. Fast forward a little bit, Borderline has a premiere, and you premiere Broadcast, but Jason's also got a movie, and he premieres it there as well. And is that when you two kind of develop a relationship more than just you pointing a camera at him?
Yeah, it was actually a pretty funny little movie premiere at my friend Joe Hagedis' house.
Okay.
It was right before Borderline Camp, the summer camp, the first inaugural one. And we had picked up some dudes coming into town, like pro snowboarders. It could have been Mikey LeBlanc and those dudes. And we brought them to Joe's house. And Jason came, obviously. And Jason showed his NSB movie, I think the second. They were called like New School Bitches. And then we showed our high school movie, Broadcast. And I just remember thinking that we were going to blow these guys' minds, you know?
Yeah.
But like, I remember being like, they don't seem too blown away, you know? Like maybe starting to figure it out a tiny bit that we had a ways to go. But Jason and I were like, you made a movie. You made a movie. Like, we make movie.
And that's the beginning of JB Deuce right there?
Exactly, yeah. Then there was a couple breaks, and we ended up really coming together in the fall. We started filming skateboarding first because it was summer, and then ended up really making the plan in the fall at Round Table Pizza.
You put out your first movie, and after that's really when you decide, hey, JB Deuce is going to be something that happens every year. And when you look at it, Jason's an established pro. You're starting to get known, but you're not known by any means yet. What's like the work breakout between you two? Because you're a really, really creative dude. I don't know him. I've met him a couple times. He's always seemed cool to me, but I don't know him at all. Do you guys create a company on paper and do something the traditional way, or is it kind of a loose thing where it's like whoever has time to do this is going to do that?
Yeah, that was kind of exactly. It was pretty loose. And I don't even really remember how we handled the business license and stuff. At some point, we tightened it up a little bit, and it was just kind of like, go and do your thing and collect as much footage as you can, and we'll check in for the teaser, and then we'll check in again some other time of the year. We'll all be together at Borderline Camp, and then Jason and I will go into a cave and edit.
Okay, so you're working together on the edit and everything. It's not just you.
No, it was together, on the edit, especially during the prime years. We were learning together. It was a big life skill, and that guy I mentioned, Andy Simitis, who was there when I hit my head, he taught me and Jason how to edit. And I really, 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 really paid attention. And a lot of the edit techniques I still use today, I got from Andy. So big shout out to the homie.
And with your JB Deuce videos that you're putting out, I feel like you, and you still do this today, but you were always able to find the up-and-comers. I guess in Alaska, everybody's an up-and-comer because the companies are all located in the lower 48, and you can give them exposure and eventually they can be seen elsewhere. But who are the riders you look at back in the day? I mean, there's Cooley, Lando, there's a bunch of people that you helped make, I feel like, given their riding helped make them, but you gave them the platform for other people to see them. Who are some of the guys that you feel like you helped spark their career back then?
All those guys. Cooley and Lando, two of the major ones. Super fun being there with them, and super rad that we were able to have the platform and create that. And how do you blow up this up-and-coming kid? Well, you just have to know how to illuminate that energy. It's not rocket science, and it's a position I've always basically been in, and I enjoy it because you get to introduce new stuff, and I love new ideas, new tricks, new riders. And so that was super fun. And those guys, they were just waiting for their opportunity. Lando, God, dude, he's like one of the best snowboarders ever to live. And Cooley was amazing. He changed the jib movement, style, amazing. Mark, he's just like such an explosive athlete. It was so fun watching him pop, and it was so rad to be there. And it took a while for it to go down for him, for his career to really pop, but we just all knew it was going to. But it did take a while, and we were just sitting there twiddling our thumbs like, dude, this kid, come on, he's insane.
Is he one of those dudes you point the camera at, and anytime you do, you know you have gold?
Yeah, and this is another thing I love. People that don't wait for me to point the camera at them. Bring me the gold. Lando came to the party with a bunch of clips from Juno of like him doing insane tricks that him and the homies filmed, and they knew we had energy and we had the platform, so they just put their footage in with our footage, and then we filmed him at camp and we made a video part, and then for a couple of years he would submit 50% of his stuff. So self-motivated crews coming together, that's where it's at.
And that makes it easy for you if you're getting a shit ton of clips being sent to you. It's like, not that you don't have to do the work because there's editing work, but when people are motivated like that, they want to make their career go or get their exposure, and they can do it through you. So they're doing all the work on the side. If everybody did that, your life would be super easy.
Yeah, it should be that way at some point for everybody, I think, because you can't just sit around and wait for someone to put a camera on you. Those days are over. Don't sit around and wait for anyone to do anything for you.
Well, you've never sat around and waited for anything. I mean, I don't want to say you've been passed over by the big film companies, but I don't think you ever really shot with the big film companies when you probably could have. And you just started your own shit, and it became more important than being with a big film company.
Yeah, by the time I had the chances, I was so in love with DIY. I got to shoot with Mac Dog a little bit, and it was really cool. But I was also making another movie, and I only got to go out with Mac Dog 2 days, but I got 2 clips in the movie or something. But like, it was so rad to get that opportunity, but I wasn't at all going to commit to it. I wasn't going to be like, nope, no more of this, no more JB Deuce, no more Think Tank, whatever. Like, I'm all in with you guys. Like, I'm not that guy. Like, I've always been both. Snowboarding is part of the overall big message that I have fun helping bring to life. I don't think I've ever quite been the athlete enough to just be the guy that gets picked out of the dodgeball lineup first or whatever.
Sure.
But like, it's about that overall message. And like, I need to curate my message for it to resonate the way that I think is cool. I kind of need to be there curating it. Can't just be another dude in the movie.
Yeah. And aside from movies, though, I think you were competing a little bit too. I don't know if it was USASA stuff or whatever, but Cab 9s were beating everybody.
yeah, Cab 9, the era of the Cab 9.
Yeah, and
that
you
was
had
so
that.
Funny. Yeah, definitely. No, I rode that one for a while. Everyone did contests. It was so cool.
Everybody did everything back then.
Yeah, because like the Airwalk Freeride tour that turned into the Vans Triple Crown, that was like this sweet way to like go and be the pro snowboarder because you paid like $150 entry fee and you got like a week of lift tickets. You got lunch every day. And then there was all these parties at night with food and bowling or whatever. Or Steve Van Dorn was out there cooking food. It was just like this super cheap way. All you had to do is like get the hotel with a ton of people or find a place to crash and then get your entry fee paid. And you were like cruising for a week. And then everyone just did all the events. And we would be at like Sierra Tahoe and it would snow like 2 feet. And Sierra is super fun. And like we'd be ripping Sierra and like, oh, time to go to your slopestyle run. Like Andre landed a back REO7. Like, whoa, what the hell? You know, like, can't believe you pulled that. And like, all right, let's go ride again, you know? And in that mix, I like ended up taking a couple wins. It was cool.
Were you a competitive dude at all? Or is it just the 2 runs during your day and then you go out and have fun?
I was competitive. Like, I wanted to do good. I was like big air because I think I was competitive, but slopestyle, I've only had a couple successful slopestyle runs. That's like a lot of pressure and hits and stuff. Big air, you could just focus and be like, all right, I'm going to do a cab 9. I'm going to do a front 5, a back 7, and try a cab 1080. It's a big jump and it's icy and I'm scared, but I know I can do this, you know, and like it worked out a couple times. And those were fun times. You did every contest. You did the half pipe. You did the border cross. Andy Hetzel rode over my head. I can say that. Not a lot of people can say that.
And when does sponsorship happen for you? I mean, is it Sims that you get first? Who's your first flow of product?
Actually, Nitro flow of product. I went to USSTC and Andy Wolf hooked me up with Nitro, the camp. I went to the camp and they were hyped. And so the rep from this region sent me a board or maybe 2. I think just 1 board and bindings. That was like going into junior year in high school and I started competing that year and I'd never done a contest. Did USASA. I actually didn't lose that year. So I was going to go to nationals. And then this crew, they were called Big Alaska. They came to me and they were like, Jesse, go to nationals for Big Alaska snowboards and we'll pay your way. And it was cool. And I did that. And so then I was on this little company called Big Alaska. It was super fun. They were just like homegrown couple that was building snowboards. But actually their snowboards were built in Minnesota. And then they were built at Hyperlight. First they were built at Kingpin. And then they were built, I think, at Hyperlight in like Redmond or something, or maybe Preston.
And Kingpin, was that in Duluth, Minnesota?
I think so.
Yeah.
We went to Giants Ridge, Minnesota for nationals and we stopped where they were building Big Alaska boards. And we go there and there's like this kid named Marty who was their rider and this other kid named Chad who was their other rider, Chad Otterstrom. And they were there at the factory and I was like, ooh, who are these guys? And then like Chad was in the contest with us and everything. And it was so sick. All these years later, I just love watching that dude snowboard. I loved watching him the first day I saw him snowboard. He was insane and he was doing his own thing and he was this Midwest hucker. And now I just think he's like one of my favorites to watch now on Instagram.
He puts out so much content. It's awesome.
Yeah, he's the best.
What's your progression of sponsors after you go Big Alaska? How does it work to where we are today? Just so we don't talk too much about sponsors.
Yeah, no, I mean, Big Alaska, you know, is just a husband, wife, and it wasn't really popping for them. And they were like, yeah, this probably isn't going to go. And Max von Marbod had given me some Sims bindings and boots. So I was like, I want to get on that. And Dave Ray and Max made it happen. I guess the story is, the legend goes, Dave saw me hiking the half pipe in the rain at Stevens Pass by myself, which is highly likely. And he was like, we want that guy.
That guy works hard. We want him.
Yeah. And so then when I was like, hey, Max, I want to get on, he was like, yeah, dude, let's do it. You know, and I ended up getting like a little pro contract right out the gate with those guys.
Some money and some travel?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And that was Sims. And I worked in the warehouse first because the contract didn't start till January. So I moved to Mount Lake Terrace with Pete Iverson and Joe Hagedis. And then Joe and I worked in the warehouse shipping at Sims. And that was really cool just to learn. I mean, it was cool to learn a couple things. How to do stuff like that, work in a warehouse. And what I didn't want to do.
For sure.
Was work in a warehouse. But I actually ended up getting decent at it in my short stint. And that felt good. And then I was out and I was just a little pro snowboarder for Sims. And cruised on that until they made their big switch, big management switch. And brought in all the World Industries guys. And my boss, Scott Rouse, left. And like...
That was the end of Sims pretty much, right? Like it's the
beginning
downhill.
of the end. Yeah. And then I hit up Chris Owen to get on Quicksilver outerwear. So I was like looking for an outerwear sponsor. This was right when Sims, they actually cut me. And then I was looking for all sponsors. And then they brought me back. But anyways, when I had hit up Owen about Quicksilver, he's like, no, I can't do anything there. But what about Lib Tech? And I was like, what? You know, and it took me all of like 3 seconds to be like, hold on, let me figure this out. I just signed this Sims contract because they wanted me back for whatever reason. It doesn't matter, but it didn't feel right. I was like a redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, and Lib Tech was the definition, I feel like, of not what everybody else was doing in snowboarding. Just from the graphics to the attitude of everybody in the brand, it still is. But it was like a really loose, fun, awesome Northwest company that had awesome product, but everything else seemed really loose.
Yeah, it's like not even a question, dude. Like, gotta do that. To me, it was so much high above any other brand. And I think Owen was just drunk or something and offered me the deal.
And what, 10, 12 pro models later?
Yeah.
You're now the marketing manager there or marketing director there or whatever your title is. So
yeah.
You did a long time as a pro athlete for him and transitioned in-house.
Yeah, they couldn't get rid of me. Yeah, they even fired me once and I wouldn't leave. I got cut and then came back and never left. And then Pete was just like, all right, we'll just make you pro again. And then I did that again and got a pro model. Yeah, it's been really cool.
It's time for me to take my last sponsor break, and I'm going to start out with Spy Optic. For 25 years, Spy has been making the best sunglasses and goggles on the market. Yeah, there's a lot of good products out there, but no other lens on the market comes close to Spy's contrast and mood-enhancing Happy Lens. Don't believe me? Next time you're at the shop, try a bunch of goggles on, and then put on a pair of Spies. You'll see the difference. Another thing you can see is how much better Spy goggles look compared to the competition. I keep thinking the other brands will catch up in fit and finish, but they don't. For listening to the show, I'm going to make it easier than ever for you to rock a pair of Spy goggles, sunglasses, whatever. All you need to do is go to spyoptic.com, do your shopping, and when you check out, use the code POWEL20, that's all one word, and you'll get 20% off your order. My final sponsor is the 10 Barrel Brewery out of Bend, Oregon. They have been brewing my favorite Northwest beer since 2006, and since they started brewing beer, they've been supporting the sports we love. If you aren't sure about what 10 Barrel's been doing in the action sports space, well, I'll tell you. This year, they produced a ski movie with Lucas Walks called Watch This. They produced a snowboard movie with Curtis Cizik called Hold My Beer. They have signature beers that donate to causes like Protect Our Winters, and they have the dates ready for this year's Hella Big Air events, which are a party on the snow and have some big prize money for the riders. The first event is at Copper on March 2nd. Next up, it's Bachelor March 28th, and everything closes out with a new stop at Mount Hood Meadows on April 18th. If all of that isn't cool enough, the people at 10 Barrel, they're all skiers, snowboarders, and bikers. So next time you head to the store, buy some 10 Barrel, and support the brand that really makes a difference in the sports we love. Those are my sponsors. Now let's get back into the podcast. We're not going to talk much more about your sponsors, but how much is the most money you made in a pro year?
I heard this was your question.
I like to know because you know what? There's a kid out there who wants to be a pro snowboarder, and he might be the dude who's not the number one athlete in the world like you and take the model that you've set.
Yeah.
And he might not know what he can make being a pro snowboarder. I mean, do you ever make over $100,000 snowboarding?
No.
Do you ever make over $50,000 snowboarding?
Yeah, because I was hustling. Because I was also a coach, also doing other stuff.
So that's not all from sponsors. That's from a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Movie revenue included coming in?
No, that would have been a different little pie, but we didn't get paid a lot for the movies. We would put it back in, but everyone would take a check. All the three major players, Christina, Burtner, Sean Genovese, and myself, we would get paid what we would get paid, which was like basically a royalty. And then the rest of it would go back in so that we would be ready to make another movie. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't think we ever made $100,000. I don't think I ever made $100,000. That would have been sick, but we made it work.
Do you own a house and that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
So snowboarding created a great lifestyle for you.
Yeah. And once again, Christina had a job at UW. So she had the health care. When that kicked in 3/4 time, she had the health care and she was providing the stable environment and her credit along with mine. And together we were able to buy the house.
Okay.
I guess if you looked at like the spoils of war, I bought a car and a computer.
And you probably had a badass computer.
Yeah, I won a contest and bought a brand new car and a brand new computer. And that like elevated my life, you know, and was able to go further. And then I always was able to put some money in the bank. It's definitely like tough to be well paid.
Well, there's classes within snowboarding. There's dudes, like 3 of them, that make 7 figures, but it's like 3 dudes.
Yeah, definitely 7 figures.
And then there's 20% of people maybe can make $100,000. And then there's some guys that make $15,000 and consider themselves a pro.
And just like America, the middle ground is going away. There's just now the 2 tiers.
Well, it's interesting because you help sponsor people now. I mean, you get to handpick people that you want on the program. And in this day and age, there's influencers out there. And I see brands picking up people that have hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers. But then you watch their riding and you're like, well, they probably could have gotten someone better. And I don't say you do that by any means, but do you see that out in the snowboard world, like the Instagram influencer compared to the rider that you really respect?
Yeah, I see that. And I haven't gotten too much pressure to go that direction, but I've seen people make moves in that direction a little bit. And I don't know. I'm not going to assault anyone's game. That's not my thing.
No. We're not talking about people individually, but it happens out there. And it's interesting because it waters it down a little bit, I think, if the people that you associate with the brand are influencers opposed to badass riders.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, the influencers can ride for sure. There's a lot of people that are good snowboarders out there, but not a lot of people deserve money, only a certain few.
And I guess that's just up to the market to decide.
Yeah, or the marketing department. If people get it, I mean, you get it. This is your life.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure there's other brands that have people that don't have the experience or history of you, and they see the numbers and they want to get those guys involved. And does it drive sales? Who knows? But I'm going to take it way back to JB Deuce. And when that thing all ends, you guys are together for like 7 years. And for steez and for no reason, you guys are going to do a big promotion with like an Alaskan newspaper. You're going to bring an Alaskan newspaper with you on a trip. And you go to some abandoned military base. And when the article comes out about that, they pretty much say that you guys are just dirtbag snowboarders that are like fuck authority. And that's what these guys are. But the world finds out that you go to this abandoned military base. And I hear the military got involved with you and Jason. And that was a big headache.
Yeah. I mean, you pretty much nailed it.
So what happens though? They call you and like, hey, you have to come, and is there like a court martial or what goes on?
Yeah. Have you ever seen that show Jag?
I've heard of it.
Okay, well, do you know what a Jag lawyer looks like? White outfit, all the gold baubles and bells and whistles and the hat and everything.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, so like 2 of those guys showed up to my mom and dad's house, and I happened to be in town at like 6 a.m. in the summer, actually, right before Borderline Camp. And it was just like, we're taking you down, buddy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And anyways, it all resolved. They were just really stressed out over this contract they were going to get to train for Operation Desert Storm or Enduring Freedom, Afghanistan. So they're trying to get this contract to do live ammunition training.
At that base?
Yeah, but where we were is just completely abandoned. Fences are laying down in the snow.
Makes for great footage.
Yeah, it's just a cool place to like jump around on some buildings and weird cement structures and stuff. There's no sign. There's no gate. Yes, we did crawl under a fence, but we pretty much did that so we didn't have to walk 75 feet. But anyways, it was definitely a military place and we shouldn't have been there. So when the newspaper article came out, it looked really bad. Someone there was like, this looks horrible for us. Whether or not it came back on them, who knows? But they like, we got to make an example of these guys. And that was what happened.
And you were able to get out of that. And that's the last movie with JB Deuce. And Jason has a great blog. I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's an interesting blog and he shares his feelings.
Yeah.
And in his perspective, it sounds like he had no idea that you guys were going to part ways. It kind of was just a shock to his system. He gets an email from you, I think, saying, hey, we're not going to be doing this anymore. What's your take on that? Because I read his and it seemed like he was very hurt from that and hurt the friendship, I would think, over the years. But what happened there?
My take on it was, well, we made 7 movies, so we had a really good run, but we were very creatively different.
Sure.
And we weren't necessarily meant to even make 7, but we did, and it wasn't super healthy the whole time. But every time we had a premiere, at the end, it was always worth it.
And you guys packed the house in Alaska and started getting to the lower 48
yeah,
as well.
And it always came together, and it was beautiful. But I wanted to do different stuff, creatively, musically, visually. Just wanted to go in a different direction, and that's just how it went down. And I did tell him the night of the premiere season. Well, actually, yeah, it's a little tricky. I fumbled it. I bobbled it.
I mean, you're young. It's the first time you probably had to tell someone something like that, and it's probably not the easiest way to do it, but how's your relationship with him now?
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good, yeah. I mean, dude, we have so much history, and Borgie, he's just a force of nature, so, like, it's just fun to, like, talk about the old days, and he's just still exactly like he always was, and he's doing good. He has his shop. He's crushing it.
Yep.
So I think, like, him getting back going with all this stuff culturally in Alaska has just been super inspiring, and it was pretty rough there for a while, with, like, me doing pretty good with Think Tank, and the things weren't looking super good on his side, that it was like, fuck, that's pretty whack, But he has done a great job reinventing himself.
For sure. The borderline torch was passed to him almost with his new shop, I feel like. He's taking on the role that they were in Alaska.
Definitely. Yeah. And he wants to fill as many of those voids as he can. He has to find new ways to do it. It's a different era, but he's doing a good job with that.
And this is when life changes for you. I mean, I think that following October 2002 is when you hit your head. We talked about that a bunch, and that's when your perspective on life changes. Right.
So we filmed Season post head injury.
Okay, that was post.
Yeah. And then I had to, like, figure out what I was going to do, kind of.
With snowboard movies, I mean, it seemed like every year you have to go bigger. Every year you have to do something different and better. And it was bigger and bigger and bigger, it seemed like. And the tricks were just more high risk every year. Does that get to be Groundhog Day for you and you get sick of that?
Definitely, for me personally as a rider. Definitely. And, like, I found my ceiling there, and I was having trouble pushing through to whatever was going to be next.
Right.
Like, there's a few specific examples. Like, I wanted to do a fakie 1260, and it was like, I couldn't do it. I didn't want to hit a jump big enough to get me there, or I couldn't spin fast enough. And I was like, I want to do a fakie 9 over the cat track gap, and I couldn't land it. And it was frustrating, and I was beating my body up, and it felt like Groundhog Day, like you said, and it just wasn't like what I signed up for. I wanted to be excited, and that path was kind of closing up on me, and I wasn't really ready for it to be over. And the will to continue pushed through to other avenues.
And then the Think Tank era starts. We've talked about who was part of that, but I don't think
Thunk got the credit or the respect it deserved right when it came out. I think now when people talk about it, they kind of look at it as like, well, that was where there was a big shift and things were starting to change. I mean, people look at Neo Proto back then too as another thing that helped shift things a lot. But I feel like the masterpiece for you back then was Cue the Birds in terms of your Socratic vision and art, and putting that all together was another thing that might have been overlooked back then that now you look back and you're like, holy shit, he was kind of revolutionary there. And that didn't get its due. And then you go to Patchwork Patterns, and that's the one where everything changes. That's where it's not about being gnarly. That's like Scott Stevens and the whole crew there. That's where one footers and all that stuff's being seen. And was the industry ready for that when it came out? Or they just look at you guys as like the weird mushroom snowboard kind of guys?
The industry was not ready. Yeah, the industry's never been ready.
Yeah.
No, but the riders were ready. The people were ready. You got the history right. Back up just 1 second. Thunk, super proud of the way that turned out. Sean Genovese really was driving that project very heavily. I was working on Love Hate at the same time, which is Mikey LeBlanc's movie, as a filmer. And we had wanted to start something post JB Deuce, but I needed to make an income, and this was my way to stay involved. And Mikey gave me that opportunity that John Cooley put together. I learned so much on that project, but Geno was driving the crew the whole time and really made that one happen.
Love Hate was one of the biggest movies of that year on the bigger scale. So you had your fingers everywhere at that point.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as much your fingerprints on Thunk as you would have liked at that point.
No, I mean, I just wanted to make sure to shout Geno out on it. I got plenty of input, and I edited most of the movie, but being there day in, day out, making it happen with the crew, that was a big moment for him too, because he had always helped a ton in the background with JB Deuce. So then when it came time to do this new project, he stepped way up and showed what he's made of.
He gets some ownership, and you can see his confidence level rise, and he can just take a crew and do whatever he wants, and you can trust him in that at that point.
Exactly, yeah. And then Christina, she makes the logo, creates the visual identity of Think Tank, and starts pushing on all these other fronts while I'm doing this project with Mike as well. So all three of us, very much, that was the beginning of Think Tank, but it was kind of in the background. And then Cue the Birds was all right, now we got a rule. Thunk was this little hidden project kind of in the wing of Love Hate, you know?
Yep.
Hey, Mike, I'm also doing this movie. Geno's making it happen. When I get a chance, I'm going to film a couple tricks for it. Yeah, and then Q, we were able to really dive in on the philosophical side of things.
And did people get that, or was that just too smart for snowboarding?
No, it's not too smart for snowboarding. Some people got it. Kids will come up to me and talk to me about it. And even at the premiere, don't ever dumb them down. They're going to get it, or get something.
The right people are going to get your message, and everybody else is going to get something.
Or even if
they
get something else out of it, whatever. It's just that feeling of newness and experimentation that we were really chasing.
You're worried about the details of clothing and everything that everybody's wearing, I feel and that keeps going and going from there.
We had some really cool, artistic photo shoots where we made all these different bird masks. One in particular that I think Geno spearheaded again was these paper plate bird masks when we were in Tahoe. And it was this bird wine party. What if birds had this lush wine party? But we did it out in the snow. And then they're all just out there with wine glasses in the snow. And then we projected all these imagery down on top of them from the deck. It's just super fun,
Just keeping it weird.
Yeah, we did this one at Snoqualmie. We shot a 2-page ad. Lando's there, Pika, myself, Josh Thompson shot the photo. First snow of the year, we had to get a frequency ad, just nuking. We ended up doing that handrail, that flat rail right at the bottom of Central, flat wooden rail. Yeah, that was just super cool. Projected all these birds along the cabin, and Lando stood up on a ladder, and Pika, and they were flapping like birds. And I did a switch 50 on the rail. It only snowed that one day because that was a horrible winter. That was the first and only snow. It was the first terrible year, the really terrible year. Before the next really terrible year, which was 4 years ago or something.
Yeah, where they're giving people passes the next year.
And so with Patchwork, that's really where things change. Everything gets smaller.
Yeah. So Thunk and Q, we were still like chucking like off big jumps. We kind of wanted to be Mac Dog. We wanted to be Mac Dog with with a philosophical concept. So like we were still just chasing the gold standard of backcountry freestyle snowboarding, but we wanted it to all be tilted towards this sort of like philosophical idea and incorporate art visions from our friends or from ourselves, from Christina, Genevieve's, Todd Lown, and make this different sort of movie based on the packaging, the artistic packaging. The snowboarding stayed the same. That movie really didn't work. We were a little bit bummed.
Like you're super proud of what you did and then the response wasn't there?
Yeah, it just died on the vine. It just felt like it didn't hit. And it was like, this isn't hitting. And I remember Christina and I talking and we were like, man, can we do this again? Like we really went all in on that. And like, should we do another movie, you know?
It was like 5 years too soon.
Yeah, and I think we weren't thinking about it correctly. So that summer, everyone was hanging, doing stuff, and a couple things happened. We were hanging out with Micah Hollinger a lot, who's a pro skater from Alaska, and he's one of the most creative people ever. And then Baker 3 came out, which was a skate video, and Gus Engel was moving in with me. And like all of this stuff like culminated in this like stew of like energy and creativity where we were just like in this like primordial ooze of like possibility. Like we were watching skateboard movies, going skateboarding, talking about snowboarding, pulling our snowboards out, putting weird stickers on them, making weird outfits to wear, planning what we were going to do. This was all in the summer and fall. And Jenna was talking about how he was going to do all these nollies and stuff. And Gus and I were like all about kickflips. We started doing them in the grass.
On your snowboard?
Yeah. And we were like, oh, like this works. And we were practicing and we were talking about all this stuff. And then that summer leading up to that, I had met Scott at Mount Hood. Like he tells the story because he remembers it better than me, but he was in the Best Buy parking lot somewhere in Massachusetts. And I just called him and was like, dude, I'm Jesse Burtner. I saw you ride. I want you to be in Think Tank. And he was like, whoa, which was so rad. Then he brought the rest of it.
The creativity that guy has is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, that's a tsunami. And we just like opened the floodgates. When he came over in January for his first Patchwork filming mission, he brought a hard drive with something like 80 clips on it from that year. I mean, they weren't all usable. They were all usable, but not in the way we thought about it.
Sure.
We had a big shift that year, huge mental. It was like, forget everything you know. Energy is energy. It matters more about the message you're delivering than what you did. Let's look at this thing from a whole nother perspective.
I mean, it looked like the art was in the features that you guys were finding and being able to ride. There's shit that people never ever thought a snowboard would go on. Not stuff that's super gnarly, but just the fact that you can get through it was what made that so cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the feature, everything about it. Like the entire clip is a message of excitement. So like with Gus, it was so fun because he's so willing to go way out artistically, Gus Engel, because he was so into what he wore and his like presentation. He was very loose, but he was also very planned.
So a lot of calculated stuff that you wouldn't know was calculated?
Yeah, you know, he's experimenting artistically with where he can go artistically in snowboarding. So he loves doing tricks and doing all that, but where can he go artistically? You can alter the way you dress, the tricks you try, you know, like, so he was just experimenting. Like his experiment level was way up there. Like, you know, I was somewhat lower. And anyways, like Gus was the most avant-garde. And that was his year, you know, he filmed 2-part, he got Ender. He just went like weird beyond. And I surfed that weirdness to help the edit. And it was, I think, one of my best edits. And it really just set a new standard for us.
It created a new path for a lot of people, too. There's a whole nother generation that realized that you don't have to go huck doubles and triples everywhere. To the kid in Minnesota, it opens up a whole new avenue of you don't have to do gnarly handrails, too. You can just find the cool shit, and people want to see that. As long as you're having fun and the features are cool and you make it look good, style's going to rule anywhere. And when you have cool features, that makes it even better.
Yeah.
So a change to the whole world of snowboarding right there. And like you said, I don't think the industry was ready for it, but now they are, because attainable snowboarding has become a lot more than it was back then. And I think you guys kind of started the attainable snowboarding. Anybody can do that shit if they have the skill. It's not like they need a heli budget to go find a cool rail. They just need eyes.
Yeah, exactly. And then a refresh on those eyes. Because you could look at the same spot, and if you only thought of the one way that is acceptable, the known way, then you're not doing it justice. Like, look at it in other ways, and things will always reinvent themselves if you keep your mind open.
So you go to a handrail spot and you see the handrail, but that might not even be the part you're hitting.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
And then, I don't know how many movies you put out with Think Tank, but why does Think Tank eventually end? Is it because of the way that videos are being distributed and how the internet has taken over? Or are you guys just over it? Or where are you with that?
Well, it didn't end. No, it more or less did. Well, I mean, I took a job.
Because you started making movies for Mervyn, right?
I took the job as the team manager. And so then right off the bat, it was like, I can't make movies forever anymore. And the way it was the first couple of years I was at Mervyn, I was able to make a couple more movies, which was rad. And everyone just kind of started doing other things.
You're a desk jockey now who probably gets to travel a lot, but there's a lot to do being, what's your title, marketing manager or director?
Director.
So you've got a lot on your plate for one of the most iconic brands in snowboarding. Do you get to travel much anymore?
I get not to travel.
You like that?
Yeah.
I guess you have like 2 kids?
I have one. This new chapter for me is really exciting because it's the not chapter. I'm 1 week into my enjoy snowboarding experiment, like pure enjoyment. Me and Christina are going to go up every week and just ride. And last Friday was a great success. So rekindle and do my job and look for maybe an opportunity to create something in the future, but no pressure, you know?
Yeah. Soon you're going to have the riding with your kid and seeing it through his eyes, which is pretty amazing.
Exactly.
And the project that you just put out recently is probably the most fun snowboard movie that I've seen in a while, Suzy Greenberg 270. And Scott Stevens said, I interviewed him years back, and he was like, I've got just a room full of mini DV tapes that I'm going to go through one day. And was that your job to go through those mini DV tapes?
No, he did that.
So he cut them all up and then just sent them to you?
Yeah, I mean, he edited most of that movie.
Okay.
Yeah, he did it. We made the plan to make a movie together after the Winter Social in Fremont 3 years ago. And it came out at this Winter Social. So 3 years in the making, loosely. But the whole thing was like, you got to make a Scott Stevens movie. We said it from the very beginning, maybe a couple years in, after Stack Footy. Yep. I remember the year after Stack Footy, I was like, we should make an all Scott Stevens movie. So we did Patchwork, Thanksbrain, Stack Footy. And after that movie, it was like, man, this guy, he's going places. He's so phenomenal. But we didn't wrangle it. And it wasn't the right idea, because the right idea wasn't, let's make a Scott Stevens movie. The right idea was, Scott Stevens, you should make a movie. And those are way different ideas. Because like I said, he brought 80 clips the first time I met him. He's more than just a guy doing tricks. He's got the brain for the whole thing. And it's so cool that we get to share that with this Suzy Greenberg, because it really is him. And I was there the whole time helping. He was getting injured and I was going out and filming people and getting film myself and working on the project and pushing it forward. But like otherwise, that's his movie.
And everybody should watch that. There's another movie, since we're talking to you, that everybody should watch, Stacked Footy, which is your 20 video parts with people talking about you over the years. And it kind of gives a synopsis of your life and times. We've been going for a while. So at this point, I have something that I call Inappropriate Questions. And usually I get somebody that you know to ask you 3 inappropriate questions. I play them for you. You'd hear them and you'd be like, oh, I don't want to answer these. Well, I reached out to Johan Malkowski because he's one of my go-to guys. I'm like, hey, I've got to get some questions for Jesse. Who should I talk to? I should have just called Scott Stevens. But Johan puts together a text chain. And there's like 5 people on it. None of them really wanted to step forward and be recorded. But they did send me questions to ask you. So I'll ask them to you as if they're my own, but they're not, because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Okay, hit me.
The first one, and I guess I do know what I'm talking about with this one. I don't know your answer by any means. But what are your thoughts on pubic baldness?
Pubic baldness?
Yeah.
Dude, I really don't have an opinion on it. I don't know how you would have even gotten this question.
Okay, I thought there might have been something there. So how about banter moths?
Oh man, banter moths are pretty fun. You know, you want them to commit, but they don't want to get burnt by the light. A banter moth is someone that hovers off to the side of a conversation. Maybe they're up on a balcony, maybe they're in the mud room, and you're having some nice banter, and then they kind of pop in and they say like, you know, they're fluttering out on the outside. I think they think they're going to get burnt by the light.
Okay, I'm familiar with that for sure, now that you say that.
That could have been from Chris Grenier.
How about Napkin, a.k.a. Mistrio or Mistro?
Oh, you mean the Maestro?
Yeah, the Maestro.
We got to talk about him a little bit when I said we were developing Patchwork patterns. Micah Hollinger, skater from Alaska. I mean, the Maestro, he's a one-of-a-kind beast. He's amazing. He was a wild man. He's really pulled it together these days.
What's the craziest thing you've ever seen him do?
Oh my gosh. I mean, we're talking like kids gummo type scenarios. I can't tell you what the craziest thing I've ever seen him do is. He started this crew called the Wet Boys in skateboarding, so maybe just look them up. There's some rituals involved with that were pretty wild.
And it's usually 3 questions I give you, but I'm going to keep going because they texted a bunch over. Tell us about the legend of the GL hot plate.
Okay, so Green Lake, the skate park, the very top section is just this little patch of flat ground, and that's where I skate every morning. And the legend goes that when it rains, the cement is soaked with all these possible tricks, and then you have to skate them, and as you hammer them and they drift back up into the sky, they create the stars and seed the clouds for future tricks.
So deep.
Yeah, it's like a Native American thing.
Do you have native blood running through you?
No, I don't.
What trends in snowboarding over the years have come and gone that you just kind of laughed at?
Turning?
We can end it with that. So I want to thank you for your time. Your career has been like 25 plus years in snowboarding where you were doing it all yourself. You made shit happen for yourself. And a lot of people I put on this podcast have natural talent. Not that you don't. You seem like you've worked for everything you've got and you've made it to the marketing director for one of the greatest brands in snowboarding. So you're doing something right, and everything that you've touched in your career has been pretty much gold. Although when it came out, it might not have been. But when people look back, they're like, holy shit, that was game changing. And it's cool to have you on the podcast to hear your story.
Yeah, well, thanks. And I would just say I've had a lot of help along the way. I want to thank my wife, Christina Burtner, Pika Burtner.
You guys work together. They say you don't shit where you eat. You don't work with family. You do work with family. Do you guys ever butt heads on some of the artistic stuff you're working on?
Sometimes I bring ideas that she just kicks to the curb because she's the one that has to actually create my crazy vision. She's just like a one-of-a-kind talent, though, and pulls off miraculous things nonstop.
Is she the voice of reason?
A lot of times, yeah, because she's such the doer that she's like, whoa, that can't be done. Yeah, and then I have one question for you, too, is where am I going to sit in relation to Glenn Plake as this rolls out?
You're going right after Glenn Plake.
Booyah! New high mark in my career.
So that was time with Jesse Burtner, and what a career he's had. In the beginning, it was all having a huge impact on the Alaskan snowboard scene from the time he was 17 years old through his videos. He made a ton of careers with them, and had a badass one himself. And then, when shit could have gone totally south for him with his brain injury, that didn't happen. I won't say that knocked some sense into him because that would be an asshole thing to say, and I just said it. But it did change his outlook on life, and his art went from trying to chase the heavy hitters in the snowboard world to making things smaller, more tech, and more fun. And he's not afraid to experiment with his videos. And yeah, Jesse's a super talented dude behind the lens, the edit bay on his skateboard and his snowboard. But the reason he's been so successful is because of his work ethic. You don't have a pro career that has 20 video parts in movies that you have made if you're not a hard worker. So a good chat with an awesome dude who lived through a terrible injury to tell the tales of some of the most creative snowboarding on the planet. That's the podcast for this week. I want to thank you for listening, and if you have any questions or concerns for me, I now have an email address that you can get in touch with me at. It's mike@thepowellmovement.com, and I will get back to you. I also want to thank my amazing sponsors who make this thing happen. They are Evo, Stanley, Spy Optic, 686, and the 10 Barrel Brewery. Have a great week, everyone.